Hey everyone, Nathaniel Rufflejams from Nintendo Prime, and last night they announced that there was going to be some Luigi's Mansion 3 DLC. This is actually pretty exciting stuff. The problem I have with it, of course, is that it has nothing to do with the single player mode of the game. It's all about the multiplayer. And while the multiplayer modes are fun in Luigi's Mansion 3, they're not exactly, I would say, the selling point of the game. Obviously, multiplayer modes in games are always ripe for DLC, paid DLC in particular, microtransactions, all that stuff. So it's not surprising to necessarily see DLC for it, but I think it's a little disappointing because I think the main game is excellent. From what I have been able to play of it so far, it is just an amazing experience, and it's a little bit sad to see that experience isn't carrying over to the multiplayer, which is just okay. But we are getting paid DLC, as you're seeing here. The Ghost Hunt continues in the 2020. Get access to 6 new Scraper costumes with matching floors and ghosts, 6 new Scream Park minigames with the Luigi's Mansion 3 multiplayer pack of DLC. Now, it actually comes out in 2 parts. There's multiplayer pack 1 and 2. We'll look at the screenshots here. So obviously we got multiplayer pack 1, part 2. I mean, you can see one of the costumes here, you know, with Luigi with the crazy hairdo there, the mummy, Mario, blah, blah, blah. Some of the themes for the parks and everything. A little bit of it in action here. So, I mean, this all looks fine. It looks interesting. It looks fun. But it's just, this isn't really, I think, why people buy Luigi's Mansion. So I'm curious to see how well this DLC sells. Now, it's only going to be $10. 2 packs. I think the first one comes out April 30th here. We're going to open up this DLC right here. Part 1 arrives April 30th, 2020. It includes 3 new mini games for multiplayer Screen Pack mode, 6 new theme ghosts, 3 new outfits for Luigi, 3 new floor themes in co-op Scraper mode. Part 2 is going to arrive by July 31st. So no exact date on that, but it'll be July 31st at the latest. And it costs just $10 or $12.59 Canadian. So it isn't expensive, and there's no option to buy each pack individually. It's literally you get all of them or you get none. But it's weird because Luigi's Mansion 3 is getting DLC. Well, you know, Super Mario Odyssey did not get DLC. A game that would have been more ripe for DLC. I'm very curious about Nintendo's approach to DLC in general this generation. We've seen them, you know, obviously with the Fighter Pass, and they're expanding beyond that with Smash Bros. We've seen what they did with Breath of the Wild, of course, with the massive story expansion and all that stuff. Was somewhat massive, I guess, not necessarily too huge. But we haven't seen them actually dive too deep into DLC this generation, and to see them do this with Luigi's Mansion 3, I think, is very telling about where Nintendo sees the future of DLC moving forward. I'm starting to think that a lot of their games are going to have these tacked on multiplayer modes, and let's just be honest, the Luigi's Mansion 3 multiplayer modes, while fun, they're tacked on. It's just like the multiplayer mode tacked on with games like Phantom Hourglass. It's like the multiplayer modes that have been tacked on to games like Pikmin 3. I'm starting to think that Nintendo's just going to tack on these multiplayer modes to a lot of their future games, and in doing so, that's how they're going to release DLC. It seems that their DLC is very multiplayer focused because I think it's easier to sell DLC to multiplayer aspects of games, because the multiplayer aspects of games, to keep people interested in playing them, you need to constantly add new content. But I don't really like this strategy. To me, I am wondering how many Breath of the Wild style DLCs are we going to get from Nintendo in the future. The fact that Mario Odyssey hasn't had any DLC despite its sales, I think is pretty telling. I know there was some free stuff added to the game, you know, free mode and everything, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same as a full paid DLC. You know, I think a lot of people look at like the Blood and Wine DLC for The Witcher 3 and they wonder, why can't we get more single player focused DLC like that in our games? And this is just across the board in the industry. And I wonder, you know, obviously, I think this is content they were working on before Luigi's Mansion 3 came out, but it's obviously a plan they have. They had a plan to release this multiplayer DLC, and I want to be very clear here. I don't have a problem with multiplayer-based DLC. The multiplayer modes in Luigi's Mansion 3 are a little shallow, in my opinion, but they do exist, and obviously some people can be having some fun with them. But personally, I want to see more single player. Like, I honestly think Luigi's Mansion 3 is selling on the back of the single player. It's not selling on the back of the multiplayer. Maybe I'm wrong on that front. Maybe, just like there's multiplayer added to Tomb Raider or Grand Theft Auto, maybe it's a big pull, a bigger pull than I realized. After all, Luigi's Mansion 3 did win Best Family Game, and while you can play co-op with Luigi, obviously a big appeal of the familyness of this game is, well, the party modes and Scare Scraper and stuff. So maybe I'm underselling the importance of these modes in the game. But I honestly think, you go through all the reviews of the game. I talked to people who have been playing the game, like Eric, and the massive appeal of the game has nothing to do with the multiplayer. It has to do with the single player / co-op, the main story mode of the game. And to see that not get expanded upon, or at least not yet, and to see them announce multiplayer ones, I can't help but feel a little bit let down. Now, again, these new additions, the new costumes, the new stages, the new ghosts, they all look really good. And I'm glad they're being added to the game. And the price, I think, is pretty fair for the content, really just $10. But I think it would be nice to see like a $20 story DLC. What is that? That adds more levels to the hotel, or whatever they do. Maybe you open up a mini hotel, a side hotel or something, right? And you have more going on there, like one of those Motel 8 situations or something. I don't know. Like, I think there's so many different directions you can go with DLC for a game like Luigi's Mansion 3 that I can't help but feel a little let down that this is the direction Nintendo chose. Now, maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys are loving this DLC and you think it's an excellent addition to the game, and you're all about that Scare Scraper mode. You're all about the co-op stuff, and you think that that this is just perfect. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this DLC on its own in its own little nutshell. But I think when you look at what Nintendo's been doing with DLC on Switch, I'm worried. Basically, if a game doesn't have multiplayer, you're probably not getting DLC. And the thing with the Breath of the Wild DLC is it was a Wii U game. So we haven't yet seen them prove that they will do single player DLC on an actual Switch-only title. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see the future of DLC with Nintendo. I'm just worried. I love multiplayer. There's nothing wrong with multiplayer. DLC for Splatoon was great. That was a nice paid DLC back. But that was wonderful. That was fantastic. But again, it's a multiplayer game. When are we going to get more single-player focused DLC? Now, I do know, obviously, the Octo expansion that you could buy for Splatoon 2 had a massive single-player edition story mode-wise, and that's great, but it also came with multiplayer stuff attached to it. I'm wondering if they didn't have multiplayer stuff attached to it, would that DLC have existed on its own? I don't know. Would they have sold just the Octo single-player mode on its own without multiplayer attached to it, if that was a possibility? And I think the answer is probably no. I think if they couldn't attach multiplayer to it, they would have never made that DLC. So I'm worried. That's all I can say is I'm just worried. I don't want to see the end of single-player DLC before it really even gets started with Nintendo. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Robojans from Nintendo Brian. I hope you enjoyed this video. Video content is going to be a little bit slow here. It is the holiday season. Obviously, I've talked previously about how my cohort here at Nintendo Prime is dealing with some health issues, so there's that going on. So keep them in your thoughts and your prayers and all of that. Hopefully, there's some good news on that soon. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, drop a like, subscribe for more content. Go Wisconsin. Good luck on your National Recruiting Day today. Obviously, I got to represent Star Wars. We have episode 9 releasing this week. I probably won't be seeing it this week just due to other things going on in my life, but I will be seeing it in theaters eventually here. So, big Star Wars fan. Got to shout that out. And hey, there's some cool stuff going on in Japan right now with the sales and Switch is dominating and all that. We're not going to talk about that today. We're actually going to wait till next week when we get the highest sales day of the year. That's when we'll talk about what's happening in Japan with Switch, but it's pretty fun. The OG Nintendo Switch hardware, not the Lite alone, has crossed 10 million units, which is pretty cool. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Robojans from Nintendo Prime. Drop a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next video.